Hi, it's Dr. Greg Jantz. As a mental health expert, I can tell you social media does affect our mental health and our mental well-being. Next.
Dr. Gregory Jantz is a best-selling author of over 45 books and the founder of the Center A Place of Hope, voted a top 10 center for depression treatment in the U.S. As the pioneer of whole person care, Dr. Jantz is known as the messenger of hope. Now the nation's expert on anxiety, depression, substance abuse, relationships, trauma, and PTSD, here is Dr. Gregory Jantz.
Hi, Dr. Greg Jantz here. One of the areas that's fascinating right now, at least for me, is that of social media and what impact does this have on our mental health. I did actually, yes, write a book on social media and depression because I was seeing so many parallels. The more I use social media, the more, if I already tend to be depressed, the more I have depression. If I use social media excessively and I lean towards anxiety, social media creates more anxiety. What is going on? All right, so we're going to talk about social media and depression, and some who are you're deep into social media don't really want to hear this topic. This is nothing you really want to hear, talk about, because I have no problem. It's fine. Here's one observation. I was with somebody not long ago, and their battery on this device, the battery went dead. And we could barely have a conversation. And he had the jitters excessively. And he goes, "What is going on with me?" And he's like shaking. "What's going on?" And whoa, he goes, and he was feeling physical withdrawals. His heart rate went up. He got a little spacey, and he made some jokes of it, but he goes, "Wow." And he was feeling symptoms and was trying to focus, trying to have a conversation, and came to the point and place where he said, "I can't even think straight." He's so, I'm going to use the word, addicted to his device, social media, online activity, etc., that after 15 minutes of not having access, was having all the signs of addiction. And headache, shaky, couldn't concentrate, sweaty palms, heart rate went up. And literally his was very visible, and he was like shaking and twitching and was trying to make fun of it. But he goes, "This is real. This is real." And he couldn't believe what was happening to him. Now, I don't see that every time, but that was a vivid example of there is a such thing, whether we want to use the word or not, but there's such thing as a digital addiction. It will get us, it can get us, and try a little experiment. Try setting your device aside and trying not to do anything in the digital world and say, "I'm going to do this for 1 hour." How do you feel after 15 minutes? How do you feel after 30 minutes? Digital addiction. What are you noticing? Because we don't even realize that it's been 350 sometimes that you've picked up your device in one day and looked at it. And it affects you. I want to let you know that I've been given feedback about my digital use. And when I was given feedback by a loved one, I was defensive. I was defensive. And then I thought about it, and I thought I would take the little detox test, the social media detox. I was going to pick one day, just one day in the week, and not touch my device. Device means cell phone, laptop, Surface, whatever, iPad, for one day. I thought, really, to do this successfully and do my little personal test, I feel like I'm going to have to go somewhere where there's not cell service and where it would make it more difficult. So, I actually went on a hike, not alone, went on a hike, and I carried my device with me. I carried it with me. But I knew there was a certain point, because I had researched this, that there was not going to be any cell service. Cut off. I was in the great Pacific Northwest, outdoors on a mountain trail with just me, no cell service, and bugs, mosquitoes. And I became irritable. I was wishing that I could pick up my phone, at least look at something, at least have some connection. Because, see, we strive for connection. And we believe, number one, that social media gives us a connection. What we know is, since the advent of social media, I mean the great advent, which means people are deep into it, and we always underestimate how much time we're online. You go, yeah, it was probably 2 hours for the day, but it was really 8 hours or more. Our youth are 16 hours as an average on an online device every day. 16 hours out of 24. And for some, it's more. For some, they're a gaming addict. For others, it's social media. For others, it's just spacing out online. We know that if we are struggling, it will increase the struggle. Social media has increased isolation and social anxiety and depression. Social media has increased isolation. We're not more connected. We're less. We think we're more connected. We may have a lot of superficial relationships. We may have a lot of likes. But we are not connected. We are not connected. Deep, real relationships. This is why loneliness, and it is said that we're in a loneliness epidemic is the word that's being used to describe it. People are more lonely and they're more engaged in social media. Social media creates a world in itself that is a non-reality. Everything looks better and tastes better online in social media. Here's how to know if you have a problem. By the way, this is, sometimes we think of Zoomers, Generation Z. That's our 12 to 27-year-olds. We think of the millennials. We think of Generation Z. What comes after the Generation Z is Generation Alpha. We always have different names for them. So we have a generation that's been tethered to technology since the day they were born. And Generation Z lives and breathes. They're tethered to it, their technology. And it becomes a part of our identity. It becomes who we are. We might think in terms of, it used to be avatars, but now it's who you are. And you can be virtually any presentation online that you'd like to be. So how often happens where a person, you meet somebody online, then you meet them in real life, and they're nothing like what you thought they'd be. They're so different. Online presentation and real life presentation are different. Social media and depression. I'm going to hold this. I'm going to highlight just a few things that are so important for us. What do we want to look out for? All right, here's my checklist directly from the book. A few of them, there's more. But obviously, number one is excessive time spent online. Now, here's the key. I wrote down you neglect other responsibilities, you neglect other relationships, and you're preoccupied in your mind. My friend I was with, battery goes dead. He became initially more preoccupied, really did have a headache, sweaty palms, and was irritable and jittery to the point where he had to acknowledge what was going on. Like any other addiction, the more time we spend on it, it takes us farther than we ever thought we'd ever go. A person who's alcohol addiction, nobody started off to say, I want to be an alcoholic. Person that got engaged in pornography or sexual acting out online, generally, in our experience of those coming to the center, they have great regret. I mean, where it takes them, they never dreamed that that's what would happen. And so as we look at this, you go, wow, what is my social media use? And by the way, I do have a online survey or test that's right on the website, A Place of Hope. Look at all the mental health tests. And it's always good just to see, where do I score on the social media test? And just take a look. But excessive time online, we always underestimate. The person that's struggling with alcohol says, I had 2 beers. In reality, it was 2 6-packs. We always underestimate and we deny, this is true with social media, we deny the extent and the amount of use. All right. I won't even go into today, but different social media platforms. There are platforms could be even more prone towards being obsessed and addicted towards. Take TikTok, for example. That is designed to keep your dopamine levels, that chemical in the brain, pleasure chemical, that's designed to keep that going. Gaming, designed every possible way, including the chemical reaction to keep you engaged. It will. Social media. I mean, we can talk about Instagram, you name it. But the engagement and the altering of chemistries is real. It has been shown to be real. And there is the what sometimes referred to as the dopamine shot. Boom. And you keep engaged. So there's a chemical side to social media. Number 2, are you finding yourself in social isolation or withdrawal? You begin to withdraw from real-time, real people activities in order to have the online activity, the digital activity, the social media activity, because it's what I would prefer. It's easier, it's safer. I had a woman tell me not long ago, she says, look, my online relationships are a lot less complicated and easier than trying to have some relationship real time. Where we are going to prefer the artificial, the AI version of relationships over real relationships. Interesting, less complicated. And, there's all these dangers that are now, there's digital girlfriend, digital boyfriend, create whoever you want to be with. And so the reliance on artificial, when I say artificial, just like a Zoom or a online conversation is nice and handy, etc., just like we're doing here, it can never replace the in-person and the in-person interaction that occurs. All right. Find yourself social isolation, more withdrawal from people in order to be online. And I'm using the term social media. We could interchange that with digital as well. Number 3, there is a negative self-comparison that happens in social media. We don't always realize it, but we are constantly at a point of comparison to other images. That's the autopilot that we do. I'm looking, scrolling, but there's a constant comparison. male or female, there's a constant comparison. And we find that this will create, and I made a list, but increased feelings of inadequacy. Jealousy is interesting. Jealousy in social media, low self-esteem. Also, all these can be just a warning sign. More time I spend on social media, do I feel better about myself or worse? I feel worse. Do I feel less jealous or more jealous? I feel jealous. Do I feel better about myself or more time I spend online? You don't. All right. Now, social media also can be used for good. Let me just put that out there here for a minute. We can use this for good. But the boundaries and the controls and the guardrails that we have to have in our life in order to use it for good have to be intact. If I cannot control a time boundary and honor it, usually if I need to set a timer, the timer goes off, I'm done. If I can't honor time boundaries, I will not be able to also honor image boundaries, because there's images that you can just keep going and going and going. Comparisons, etc. Meaningless content. So it's going to take me down a river. It's a river of deception. And remember, social media distorts reality. Whether we want to admit that, say that, but it distorts reality. All right, number 4. When I'm deep into social media, I'm going to be deep into probably emotional and mood changes. I can have emotional distress. I'm already struggling with depression, and I just spent 5-6 hours in the digital world of social media. I'm going to feel worse. And there is this fear of missing out. FOMO, the fear of missing out. I'll miss something. Kids 13, 17 years old, that can be a really big issue, but it can be as well for adults. I have to know everything. I can't miss out. Oh, yeah. I have to stay current on everything. I don't even know if what I'm reading is true, but I have to stay current on everything. All right. Mood changes and emotional distress. Look for that one. My friend who got the shakes, his mood changed. It changed so much that it was noticeable to him. And we had a discussion later on after that episode. He goes, man, I was shocked. I have a problem. We've got to come to that place of going, okay, I have to admit that I have a problem. There's a problem. The next one is sleep disturbances. Social media will disrupt your sleep. Absolutely. Your sleep patterns. I used to work in sleep research, and we know that mood and sleep patterns or lack of certain sleep patterns can affect mood. We also know that the disruption of the sleep cycle, the person that wakes up in the middle of the night gasping for air because they're needing their sleep cycle is such that it wakes them up and they're needing to reset their thinking. But in the dream process and all the anxiety, the body will wake itself up, and it'll wake you up and you'll feel anxious. So sleep disturbances is one that we almost always see in the world of social media. Use, abuse, addiction. And then I want to mention cyberbullying. Cyberbully behavior, which is basically emotional abuse online, comes in many different forms, but it's harassment, could be name calling, could be more subtle, could be threats, but it will and it does affect our well-being. I did a small book similar to this on ghosting, because ghosting, people who disappear online after you thought you had a relationship, creates a sense of betrayal, and that betrayal creates a sense of what's wrong with me. They don't like me. They don't care about me. You feel rejection, and it can become quite deep. So here's some things we need to look at doing. We got to live in the real world more. Sincerely keep a timer, even if it's on your device, and set that and see if you can honor time boundaries. Get outside more. Put yourself in places where you are breathing fresh air and you're not attached to a screen. Program breaks. If you're working in front of a screen all day, you've got to begin to create a attachment to other positive things. Might be a walk, it might be a bike ride, but we've got to attach usually to something that's a physical activity. Watch your nutrition. The more time we spend online and social media, the more we do actually tend to overeat and not eat well. And then go through, I call it curating your feed. Go through and sort it out and clean up, because we tend to just add. And there is an emotional saturation. It becomes so saturated with so much. And remember the dopamine. It is designed, and you will want to be on longer and longer. And you also have to go, okay, who are the real relationships? Who are the real people in my life that I'm more intimate than with this device, or more intimate than the social media? Put a time limit, minimum 1 hour in the evenings. Turn it off before bedtime. You will be less productive because of digital distractions, and you'll find out you're really not missing out on much. And you'll be a lot better off if you were exercising and spending time with real people. All right. I use social media. I am on social media, and I have had to work diligently, and I continue to do so to honor boundaries and to keep this in the forefront, because I am going to need to continue to be aware and to receive feedback and keep it healthy in my own life. And I will tell you from the experiences of our clients that after about a week off of social media, a week disconnected even from gaming, people, their own words, report, I feel so much better. I feel so much better. And they don't want to go back to it, but it's easy to slide back to it. All right. Take the social media online survey, see where you score, make the necessary changes, and go for it for 1 month. 1 month, and see what it does. 1 month. Adjust your boundaries, see if you can. See how you feel. If you feel better, you won't get past 3 days. And you probably, as time goes along, you'll start trimming it more and more. I'm not saying cut it out. Trim it more and more. Now, if there's issues of pornography, there's issues of other addiction or inappropriate relationships online, that's another issue that will need to be addressed that is different than what we're speaking about today. I say, how to be healthy and happy in the digital age? Yeah. We're going to keep refining it. Set the time boundaries and no digital 1 hour before bed. See if you can do that. And let's choose real people over online. All right, there's so many more things we can do, but just to get you thinking about it, get us moving in the right direction. And it is true. Adjusting this, you will feel better. Your kids will feel better. And you'll find that you'll start talking about other things. you start having conversations again about other things, and it's good. Bless you as you endeavor to make positive changes in this area, as we're all in this together.